I'm going to call the SAR City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, January 3rd, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the STAR City Hall. I'd like to ask you all to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have Miss Christy Dyer here? There she is. Miss Christy is going to do our invocation tonight. She's a Relief Society president with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So more welcome to come up here to the podium for us. Is that on, Ryan Field?
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful for the chance to come together and meet as citizens of this great city. We are very grateful for the blessings that we have in this country and all of our freedoms. Please bless us as we discuss things tonight, that we will be open-minded, kind, and of a calm demeanor. Please bless us that we will be healthy and safe in the year to come, and always be grateful for all the things that we have. We pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Roll call.
Hershey. Here. Wheelock. Here. Chadwick.
Here.
Salmonson.
Here.
And Nielsen is excused.
Okay, we're going to move on to presentations number 4. We have Mr. Randy with Ada County Emergency Management. It's going to come up and give us a presentation tonight. You're the first one in, first one out.
We only hope that it moves that smoothly. Mayor Chadwick, members of the City Council, thank you for taking a few minutes to consider the updated emergency operations plan. I think later on this evening, you're going to have an opportunity to perhaps formally adopt that.
Sorry, Randy. Sean,
Please.
can you pull that up, or the agenda, or that emergency management plan up? Do we need that plan, or do you have a PowerPoint? Or
I don't have a PowerPoint, sir. I was just,
all right,
but I just kind of sketch out a little bit of an overview, and if
Okay.
you want to pull that up, but
thank you.
really just as a brief overview, emergency operations plans are not intended to be a tactical playbook or a specific playbook for response to an event. The city's emergency operations plan was originally written back in 2014. Our office, Emergency Management and Community Resilience, under the leadership of Joe Lombardo, and with guidance from the Executive Council, which, Mayor, you are certainly very aware of, but we have been under the taken on the effort to update the plans for each of the municipalities within the county. And so the emergency operations plan that you're going to consider later this evening is the result of that effort. It's a joint effort. It has included members of city leadership. There's been a workshop and a seminar that's been conducted with staff from the city to review that emergency operations plan and to consider some of those changes. It does speak to and employs the National Incident Management System, which is a incident management system that all traditional first responders subscribe to and utilize in the performance of their duties, as we look at those larger incidents that go beyond a single resource response. We do kind of pivoted a little bit, and instead of having the discussion about what we would historically have considered an emergency operations center, but we've employed the use and the reference to a city coordination center with a emergency coordination team made up of city leadership positions, not taking people out of their normal leadership roles. So, for example, our city clerk would continue to perform a lot of those duties, but would also have a little bit of an expanded role as part of that city coordination. We have included and taken in input from each of the city departments and allowed and sought input from those department heads as we've gone through and updated the plan. As you know, with any emergency operations plan, and these documents, we refer to them as a living document. We expect there to be ongoing refinements and changes, and we expect to continue the work. While we are going to get hopefully get a resolution to adopt the plan, it will continue to evolve and we'll continue to use that as a roadmap as we're responding to incidents and or looking at other significant planned events for the city. It will integrate in and dovetail very nicely in with the county's emergency operations plan, and it includes a sample document for, if there's the need for a local declaration of emergency for you to sign, then there's a sample document in there for that. And there are a couple of other supporting annexes to the plan that will support other activities. We expect there to be ongoing training and a next level tabletop exercise that will include at least some of the members of the city leadership so that we can practice some of the elements that are in that. So I think you've had a chance to maybe review it at this point, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody.
Any questions of Mr. Randy from council? Here none. Thank you, sir. It's a good thing that we got this update. It's something we've been working on for a little bit, right?
We have,
So,
yeah. We're happy to do the good work for the City of Stars.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank
for
you.
coming out here tonight.
Appreciate it. Have a good evening.
We're going to look at later on in the agenda, we'll look at adopting that via resolution at that point. On to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman Solomon.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item 5A, the approval of claims provided and previously approved.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Hershey. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6, the public hearings and action items. The first public hearing on Jackson's Food Store number A. We're actually going to need to table that to February 7th, 2023. Since this was published already before we could pull it off, we have to do this tabling. So I need a motion to table it.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hershey.
I make a motion that we table the conditional use permit for Jackson's Food Stores until, did you say 3rd of February?
February 7th.
7th, sorry.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a motion and a second by Councilwoman Solomon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
aye.
Okay, that motion carries. We're going to move on to item 6B, the public hearing for the vacation of easement for Iron Mountain Vista subdivision. I believe, well, real quick, I'm going to just give everybody the public hearing process, just in case you are not aware. You need to make sure that you sign up to speak on any public hearing. The sheets are out in the back, or excuse me, out in the by the foyer. I will open the public hearing. I'm going to ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication on the project. The applicant will have up to 20 minutes to present their project. The council can ask the applicant and staff questions that doesn't count towards that 20 minutes. Then there will be public testimony, 3 minutes per person. Those for the project will go first. Those against it will speak next. And then those that are neither for or against but wish to speak to the project will go there. The council may ask the individual speaking follow-up questions, which also does not count towards their 3 minutes. The applicant will have a rebuttal time of 10 minutes. Council can ask the applicant and staff questions at that time. I will then close the public hearing and the council will deliberate. A motion is either going to be made to approve of conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. It's very important that we don't have any cheering, jeering, clapping, all that. It's a public hearing. We just need to keep it respectful on all sides, so everybody's aware. That's for the first one? Okay, thank you. With that said, we are going to open the public hearing at 7:09 for the Iron Mountain vacation, and I am going to ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
No.
None.
Okay, hearing none. We have the applicant can come up, state your name and, also when you come up here to speak, please state your name and address for the record as well. Okay?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Happy New Year, by the way, and thank you for your civic duty for the city of Star. We enjoy this city and looking forward to the exciting year of 2023. My name is Jay Walker. I'm with Kimley Horn. My address is 849 East State Street Eagle, Idaho, 83616. I'm here representing Todd Campbell Construction Homes. And we have appreciated working with your staff. Their input, direction, and help is always greatly appreciated. And they're very good at what they do. I'm here this evening just to vacate an easement. Let me see if I can advance this.
Make sure you point it towards his computer over there.
Okay.
Yep.
It worked. So I'll do that from
All right.
now on. So here's the vicinity map. We've been before you on two previous developments, Iron Mountain Ridge, which is west of North Pollard Lane, over by the New Star Middle School. And then we approached you with Iron Mountain Estates, and it's on the east side of North Pollard Lane, north of West Floating Feather. And this vacation has to do with the approved Iron Mountain Vista. We were before you about a year ago and received full approval from Mayor and Council of the preliminary plat, annexation and zoning included. And we have now an approved construction document set, including the final plat. It's been reviewed by city engineer and city staff, as well as ACHD, and they have all provided their stamp of approval. We are prepared to move forward as weather is agreeable with the construction of this next phase of development, Iron Mountain Vista. So we're here before you tonight to vacate an easement dealing with the old Worsley Folly subdivision. And I want to say this was something done back in 2011, or maybe sooner. I probably need to get my glasses on, but lot 4 and 5 of that previous plat, the original subdivision approved for Iron Mountain Vista sub. The benefit of that, and I think I have a pointer on this, maybe. Where is that? Oh, that's kind of cool. So these were the 4 lots, 1, 2, 3 along Floating Feather. North is pointed towards the left of the presentation. And then the larger 4th lot, and then a 5th lot. Well, this easement was an easement that extended through lot 4 that provided access to lot 5. And because we are platting and have received approval on the preliminary plat of Iron Mountain Vista, obviously this, can't find the pointer anymore. Oh, there it is. This easement north of the out parcels along Floating Feather is no longer needed. It was again a farm access to lot 5 that sat in this northeast corner. And with public road access, both being developed on the northerly boundary for the school property and the Rosti Farm development by, I believe that's Toll Brothers. It's a large development here. They're building a road along this northerly boundary that will connect into this public right-of-way proposed and to be dedicated with the final plat recording. And then there's public road that's coming into this phase of development. So we're asking, as a part of the Iron Mountain Vista subdivision and the 16.5 acres and 50 lots that have been approved in an R3 with a development agreement associated with that, to vacate this area highlighted in blue that would greatly impact the lots of those residents. Now, I will tell you, and there might be some people who are part of these out parcel ownerships, they do have their well and pump station right here on the corner of the property. There was nothing written or no agreements or easements in place. We are rectifying that with this plat. Notes 4, 8, 10, 16, and 17 as a part of our approved to be signed plat are associated with this well and a pump station right here and a 2-inch service line that goes to both this lot and this lot. So both those lots are served. This third lot has its own well and septic, so it is not serviced by that well or that pump station and does not need access to that. But we've also, as a part of the note 4, increased this easement along the southerly boundary of this development to 15 feet to ensure the housing of that 2-inch, those 2-inch water service lines that come from that booster station. It's a very small booster station. And this Worsley Lane will continue, and that is an emergency access, ingress, egress, until the Rosti Farm development by Toll Brothers is completed. So it is a emergency access in the interim to be vacated when this connection is made. There's also a water connection to Floating Feather that provides connectivity and fire flow for that we've worked through with Ryan Morgan. Here's a larger picture of that larger development, the Rosti Farm by Toll Brothers, and the road that they're building and the school ball fields associated with the growth of the West Ada School District. And then here is the approved preliminary plat and fully approved plans and draft final plat that will be recorded upon completion of construction activities of the infrastructure. I will stand for questions.
All right, any questions of the applicant on vacation of this easement at this time?
You mentioned,
Councilman Wheelock?
sorry, you mentioned a water access for fire. Does that go through that fire access road and down the old Worsley Lane?
Correct. So that will be an 8-inch water main, and it will tie back into the water main and the pressure system that's running in Floating Feather. And that will remain. And that easement of that common lot will remain for that purpose as well. The rest of it to the north obviously will be vacated, but everything associated with the water main and with access to the well and booster station will remain in case they need to pull their pump. And Todd is working with attorneys, and that agreement is in place as well. So
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, thank you.
thank you.
We have, let's see, it looks like Mr. Blake Estes. You come up here and state your name and address, sir, for the record. And Jacob over here he's our timer on that. He'll let you know about 15 seconds before the end of your time.
Okay.
Close.
My name is Blake Estes. I live at 8932 Broken Arrow Road, which is now or was Floating Feather. And we live at the middle lot that he was referring to in his plot there. Our lot is fed by the well at the corner of that. So and I'm not necessarily against this. I put that I was against it, but I didn't. I just put that so that I could voice my concerns is that we need to be able to get past that, the back of that property line so that we can have access to the well. Eventually, we need to be able to pull the well, rebuild it, whatever we need to do to mess with the pump and the well head. So we need to somehow have access to that. And that's my concern is how does that look? What does that look like at this point past that line that they've drawn on the plot?
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Estes? I think we can address that with him when he comes back up to talk. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. That's all that spoke there, Jay. You want to come back up?
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. And I'm willing to answer that again. If you go back, this easement over this entire common lot, especially the well and pump station, and this access adjacent to that is going to continue past the line that he was talking about. So they'll be able to get a lift truck in there or a crane and maneuver. We've provided ample space there for them to do a turnaround and service that at will. That whole lot is considered part of that easement.
So they can access it from their property easement into yours or through the development. Either way, correct?
Yeah, there's no vacation of the Worsley Lane access, and that, I believe it's a 30-foot, Mr. Blakely. Yeah, so that remains from Floating Feather to the northeasterly
Arrow.
boundary of.
Broken
their-
Arrow. It's now Broken Arrow.
Oh, is that what it's named now?
Yeah.
Okay, Broken Arrow.
They've switched it.
Thank you. So that Broken Arrow lane, private lane, remains to their northeasterly boundary. That's not being vacated. And then we have an easement, as mentioned, for the water main looping and connection for redundancy, as well as an adjacent easement for their pump and their well associated in that common lot that will be an all-weather surface for them to traverse and maintain and repair their pump.
So
And
under
what?
condition of approval of vacating this easement, you wouldn't be opposed to us as a condition to perpetually maintain that easement
No,
there for them, correct? Okay, all right. And that, I think that resolves the concerns there.
yeah, I think that's fair, and that's probably going to be written and recorded with that easement anyway.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It is 7:22 and we're going to close that public hearing and move to council deliberations. So somebody on the council's got, is it not working?
Operator error. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a motion. I think we'll be okay. Make a motion that we approve this vacation of easement with the conditions that it's Mr. Esses has the access from both his property and from the standing Worsley Lane. And that would be forever his. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to. Thank you.
Okay,
I'm just gonna make it at that.
does that make sense,
No.
Sean? Okay, we got a
Did.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a motion by Councilman Hershey, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. All right. We pass that down to Sean, please. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6C, the one I think everybody's here for. The public hearing for the Colt Heights subdivision for the preliminary plat and private road. Need to ask, and all the same rules apply. I'm going to ask the council if there's any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
None.
Okay,
None.
Mr. Mayor, it's been all over the news, but I have avoided it.
Okay.
Just letting you know it's in the air, but that's just letting,
all
I
right.
think that's obvious.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, I should also say, I did see the story on the news on TV last night, but and I read an article in the paper.
Okay.
That's all I
That's
have.
all right, Chris? We're good? Okay. All right. With that said, it is, what is it? 7:24. We're going to open the public hearing for the Colt Heights subdivision. And then Ms. Becky, I believe you're here to speak for that one.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. Becky McKay with Engineering Solutions. 1029 North Rosario Meridian is our business address. I'm representing the applicant. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but I'm not contagious. been on antibiotics and everything, so it's just the hangover part of it. This particular project, I started it way back in 2005 for Harley Carson and Chris Connor. And we had submitted a request for annexation, rezone, preliminary plat. I think they had me submit a PUD at the time. And this was all back in 2005, and the property in its entirety was 47.26 acres. And we were approved for 122 residential lots on this particular piece of property. The city council approved the annexation rezone development agreement. We were zoned R3DA. And in that development agreement, the council basically stated that our density would not exceed 3 dwelling units per acre. We had initially north of the Foothills Ditch showed that there would be approximately 7 lots. The council said there will be no more than 5 lots north of Foothills Ditch. And the developer must meet the requirements, if any, of the Idaho Fish and Game, Army Corps of Engineers prior to the final plat on the subject ground north of Foothills Ditch. And the developer must continue the historic path of any irrigation or drainage through the subject property from Star Acres. So those were the pivotal points within the development agreement. We went ahead and constructed phase 1 in 2007. Then we filed time extensions to keep the preliminary plat alive. We had phase 2 in 2013, phase 3 in 2015. The northern portion sat vacant. That's what we're here to review this evening. There's 10.96 acres north of the Foothills Canal. We're requesting 5 single-family lots, 2 common lots on the 10.96 acres. Our overall density is 0.46 dwelling units per acre. We have an average lot size of 1 acre with a minimum lot size of 1 acre with an average of 1.23. When we did phase 2 to the south of it, we kept a lot that's contiguous to this parcel, which is unplatted. It has 65 feet of frontage on West Wyatt Earp Drive. So that is our point of access to the public transportation system. We stubbed sewer, we stubbed water, we stubbed pressure irrigation to this property. Challenger Development decided that they wanted me to submit a preliminary plat. So we submitted a preliminary plat that was kind of consistent with what we had originally submitted, just splitting the 10 acres up in 10.96 acres up into 5 lots. And that went to the staff. We had a neighborhood meeting. We had some concerned neighbors about protecting the existing trees, some of the nests that are in the trees, the natural drainage. Wanted us to look at the potential wetlands on the property and any sensitive areas, the impact obviously on Star Acres, the impact on Colt subdivision. So we did, after submittal, make an appointment with the Army Corps of Engineers. And we went, there we go. So that kind of shows you the vicinity map, the 3 lots that we had initially kind of shown on there. I'm sorry, the 5 lots. There we go. So there's an overall aerial map. Like I said, I'm kind of a little under the weather. You can see that we developed to an urban density, the Colt Place subdivision. You can see very on the north of West Wyatt Earp. Where'd the pointer go?
You want to come show her the pointer real quick so she can use the pointer?
It's in the middle, right?
Well, is it?
Ryan, am I doing it wrong? How come it
So
always
it's the top one. One will do that.
changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go back.
I'm
The slide
technically
you're on.
challenged. Okay. Okay, so you can see where the 65 feet of frontage is on West Wyatt Earp. You can see the boundaries of the 10.96 acres that comes over here. And then you can see the Star Acres development up to the north. The next slide. So after meeting at the site with Marv Griffith, with a professional engineer from the Army Corps of Engineers, the city engineer, Ryan Morgan, Sean was also at the site, and myself. We walked about every foot of it that we could get through without falling down, which I did. And then kind of came back after the meeting and circled back around, waited for Marv from the Corps to give us his comments. I also sent the plat out to Idaho Fish and Game, asking Mr. Flack if he would provide comments and feedback. The comments that we received back from the Corps said that it was in an email format, that the site investigation was performed, reviewing ditches, vegetation, trees, ponds, and wetlands. And that the Corps considered this what they call upland property. And with the exception of one distinct little wetland area, the hydrology appeared to be manipulated by the presence of ditches, impoundments, and berms. And it went on to say that portions of the constructed ditches have a riparian canopy, cross topography to connect the drainages. The quality of the possible wetlands was determined to be marginal, and they got down in there. The irrigation was still on. They were looking at the natural drainage channels. They were looking where we had ditches overflowing along the north boundary on an offsite ditch. And then when Idaho Fish and Game looked at it, they said, considering the footprint of the project is surrounded by other suburban developments and agriculture, we would not anticipate negative effects of the proposed activities on native plants or terrestrial wildlife populations. So after getting that feedback and asking for some deferrals, we got back with the staff, and the staff said, why don't you cluster the lots? And let's leave the more sensitive areas that the core where the canopy of trees are. And you can see right here is the edge of the large canopy of trees on the property. And then that canopy kind of goes down here. This is a pond here, a large pond. There's drainage that comes out of that pond, goes down to foothills. We identified 4 outlets of drainage that goes and discharges into the foothills ditch. And like the staff said, let's minimize the road, let's cluster the lots, and then put that in an open space lot. And maybe the council would contemplate that as a great riparian area that we could interconnect with future trails along the foothills ditch, future pathways. And that, in our opinion, would be a better idea than just splitting it up into 5 lots. And so we went back to the drawing board. And what's before you this evening is you can see where we come off of Wyatt Earp Drive. We'll extend sewer and water, pressure irrigation. We'll have to have a concrete culvert, a license agreement for the crossing, and then we came in with a private road. That private road is 28 feet wide with concrete curbing, ribbon curb on the edge to keep the concrete in place. And the thought was, obviously the smaller street section, less grading, less impact on the property. The common lot that you see on the far east side is 4.63 acres. And it is attached to the Foothills Canal. And you can see here, there's kind of an overlay of our private street system. And you can see the eastern edge of our lot is right along that eastern riparian area there. Were cottonwoods and sagebrush, and there was other vegetation that was identified for kind of upland areas like that by the Corps. They were kind of rattling off as we were walking through the site. One of the things, obviously, the council has to consider is the property is already annexed. It is already zoned. It already has an approved development agreement. What we're doing is above and beyond where, hey, we want to preserve the more natural riparian area. If it has benefits to the community, benefits to the wildlife that are in the vicinity, then we would like to obviously do our part. There's an existing pump station that's located right here on the site. And one of the things that was brought up is another pump needs to be added to that pump station. And then some exterior work needs to be completed to the pump station building repair work. I had a discussion with the president of the HOA. I indicated to her that we would be paying our HOA dues. These lots would be part of their paying on for the common area, the pressure irrigation. The private road would have a separate HOA and would be subject to these estate lots maintaining that in perpetuity. One of the things that was mentioned to me that I did need to ask the council for a waiver to allow a private road to be 28 feet versus 36. I know there've been a lot of discussions with the fire chief about the 36-foot wide. But in this situation, what we wanted to do was try to minimize the amount of asphalt and grading. And we only have 5 lots. And so when you're looking at such a small number of lots, we thought that the 28-foot made sense. We submitted to the city engineer kind of a building envelope plan on these lots where we kind of showed what we thought were the prime buildable areas. One of the conditions in the original preliminary plat, which I dug out looking through many, many boxes, was that the project was to have a 40-foot setback from the north boundary for these 5 lots. The rest of the setbacks within the development to the south would be R3. However, the setback to the north boundary would be 40 feet. One of the comments that I received in the packet that was provided by the staff was that we didn't show Miss Slater's house. So we did overlay in a current aerial photo. You can see that there are 2 houses that abut the property in Star Acres. This one is 35 feet off of our boundary. This is the eastern boundary of the buildable lot. This is Miss Slater's house here, and that distance from the boundary to the closest point of her home is 121 feet. So obviously with a 40-foot setback, we would not have any structure within 161 feet of her existing dwelling. This was always shown as phase 4. It was always shown as having a kind of a private road. We're not asking that it be gated. That's not a part of our request. We think that we've come up with a good compromise. The staff We took the recommendations of your city engineer, the Army Corps, the Fish and Game. Your planning staff was integral. We even had a meeting with some of the neighbors to talk about the new plan and to introduce it to them, to get some feedback, to see what their thoughts were. They still were not happy. Now, one of the things I also wanted to mention is digging through my boxes of saving everything. We did do a wetlands delineation study on this property back in 2006. It was done by Carl Gephardt, who was a highly respected engineer, used to work for the state. He was also the same engineer that we used for our wetland delineation studies at Heron River and the recommendations on offsets from blue heron sites and preservation of floodway areas. And this is out of this 2006 study. And as you can see right here, he did delineate that right exactly in that area where we show the common lot. He did delineate passable wetlands right there. And he basically stated in his study that that the contributing watershed there was creating the wetlands, so they're irrigation created. They're not subsurface water created. He said that he did not find any wetland hydrology in hydric soils. It was primarily cottonwoods, cheatgrass, wood rose, hemlock, assorted weeds. But there could be some jurisdictional wetlands in that area that he delineated. I did send a copy of this to Sean for the record because I wasn't sure if it was still in there. He had estimated that there was like 0.25 acres that could be jurisdictional. And so that kind of ends my presentation. Whoops, where'd I go? There we go. Can I answer any questions that you may have?
Okay, any questions of the applicant at this time? Yeah. I'm gonna ask her just a couple questions, just real quick, Ms. Becky.
Sir.
So when we're talking about that, how many acres did you say? 4 point something? 4.63 acres that you're leaving as open space.
Sir.
Are you proposing that the city takes that over?
It was 4.63 acres to be exact. We just put that in. I mean, in my conversations with Mr. Barton, he said if the city wants that, if that could be kind of a natural preserve area along a pathway, he would be glad to donate that to the city.
Okay, so if the city were to take that over, then we could have then at that time put this into a conservation easement to assure that it doesn't get developed at any time.
Yes, sir.
Correct?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct, Chris? I just want to make sure I'm stating that right.
If this, say that last part about the easement.
If this were to be donated to the city of Star, the city of Star can then put this 4.63 acres into a conservation easement so it does not ever get developed again, or it doesn't have the potential of ever getting developed again, correct?
Yeah, well, number one, if the city owns it, the city's going to control how it's used. Right.
I just worry about future councils. I look at it as today, if we can just lock it up and say no more. Right?
Yeah, the city could,
Yep.
the city could do that on its own. There are obviously other entities that, the city could work with as well that might take it as a donation and they might take care of it and hold it so that it wouldn't be sold or anything. The city would also have options in its comp plan and zoning processes to do something with that property so that even if a future council were to say we want to sell it or do something else with it, it would also require additional public hearings and
Okay.
Requirements to change it, maybe having to change comp plans and zoning and that sort of thing. So there's a number of ways the city could tie that up if they took that as a donation.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a quick question on top of that?
Sure.
We can,
Councilman Hershey?
can we make that a condition? Not the conservation part, that's obviously completely separate, but the donation? Can
I
that
think you can
be
make it a
made? It
condition.
sounds like you would be okay with it, but I don't know if we could legally do that.
Can we make that as a condition, Chris? On a preliminary plat?
If the applicant's okay with it, you
Well, I
can.
mean, they're bringing it up, so.
I mean, you can't just force them to give the city 5 acres of property necessarily. But if they're suggesting that and it's a, conversation between the applicant and the city, then that's appropriate and that could be done. And the donation, I think probably could be done as part of the final plat process even, or there could be other processes to make that happen. Because for instance, city streets are donated as part of the plat. You don't get, ACHD doesn't get a bunch of deeds for streets. There's a dedication there. So there's probably a number of ways we could handle that.
To go with that, on the bottom section there, I don't like not having the maps anymore. They took all the control of this away from me, my staff did. But on that, what is that, block one? I'll go back to that one there, Sean, that'll work. What is that? What's that far eastern lot number? The one that's next to that's 2, all right. So on the southern border of 2 and then one next to it, would you be willing to provide a pathway in there that would connect to the nature path off of this product, off of the open area with access from that private road to get in there?
Like a pathway on the north side,
Yeah, north side of the
the
canal.
north side of the canal.
Yep.
We did walk through there and we could provide a pathway. There was one area that was kind of hard to get around. Wasn't there, Sean?
Well, and that,
So-
I mean, if it's because if it's a draw or whatever, I mean, there's always the nature
Yeah.
footbridges that you could put in there, the native, and this could be a native path. I'm not
Nature
talking
path,
about.
like a nature path,
path,
like a
right?
nature path.
And
So
the
put,
last thing I think
so we
anybody
would
wants.
we would do a pathway easement and then do like a nature path. Yes, sir. I think that would be possible.
And then work with the developer on the east to connect this nature path with the
So-
one that they have.
Right. So it could keep going
Yep.
east, it could keep going west, and then there'd be access down to
Down to Wyatt Earp area.
Wyatt Earp.
I look at it, when I look at this a little bit here, I look at it as an opportunity for kids that want to walk to that middle school to be able to utilize that. Because there's going to be a pathway to the east side of that other development to your east.
Yes.
So this could get them over to that direction to be able to walk up to the school without coming down south and going north, right?
And then I guess if you were going to do that, I would probably recommend that we do a pedestrian on the north-south leg of the,
Pedestrian walk.
yes. If we're going to do that, then I would recommend, oh, dang it, here I'm going crazy here. I would recommend then we connect to the sidewalk and then we pull some type of a pedestrian
Path over the top.
access up to then link to the nature path as it goes in through there.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I believe the pathway committee also wanted the pathway to the west along the foothill ditch.
They go the west on that in their comments too. So that, I mean,
Yes.
that's another one that we can look at too, to continue it going west along that northern side of the canal.
The ditch, Mr. Mayor, the Ditch Rider Road is on the south side.
Okay.
And so we'd be on the north side off their access.
And so I'm going to get off the path subject now, right? And, well, just real quick. So the intent would be, since we're leaving this open, not one of those trees in that lot at 4.63 acres would get cut down or changed or anything, right? It's all going to be left.
No, sir, that was the whole point behind it, that we would preserve that area. And the only thing would be we'd need to get through there with the pathway.
With the pathway where you
Very
have to clear
south
some out,
end.
correct?
But as far as leaving the trees that are, obviously flourishing in there, there's a lot of dead trees and stuff in through there that kind of need to be cleaned out. But it has potential. And I think
I
if
think
staff-
some of those dead trees are good snags for
Yeah, some of them
and
are.
stuff like that.
And
So,
others.
Yeah, hey, you can't speak to it right now. So wait till you turn up here, right?
So yeah, I mean, you have to be careful, like at Heron River, we face the same thing. They told us that, even the dead vegetation serves wildlife.
It does.
And so, they gave us like a list of recommendations on how to properly clean out and protect the riparian area.
Okay, and then now I'm going to jump off of that and just come to the road, private road. I just want to confirm that this is going to be part of the HOA of original Colt Place. But these guys are going to have a separate
Yes, sir.
account that they're going to be required to set up to maintain that private road.
Yes, sir. There will be no financial burden on the existing Colt Place subdivision for the private road or any maintenance of that private road, drainage, et cetera.
Okay,
And I think in the comments from the city engineer, he put a condition in there that specified that we submit the CCNR's provisions for maintenance, repair, and layout, and it'll be built to ACHD standards.
correct. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to hang there real quick. And you said Victor, Miss Dana is online or Fire Marshal? Victor, are you there? Is he there? Victor, can you hear me? We may have to have him come back here.
I am here.
Oh, you're there. You got to get off his
I had to
couch.
join. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I just want to ask you a question. Would you, in this layout here with that 28-foot wide roads, would you support the 28-foot wide roads? Yes or no? And if no, why? And what would have to be done?
So, I think, 28 wide, there is potential for that to be acceptable, Mr. Mayor. When we're looking at residential, obviously it's a little bit different with our ladder truck swing, just because of construction type. I would have to see AutoCAD or auto turn models for anything that Ms. Becky would like to see or would like to get. So if the models show that we can get our ladder truck through, I would be willing to look at that.
Okay, so you know what the auto turn model is then, Miss Becky?
I think it demonstrates that they can make the turn and they can turn around, and yes, sir,
So we would, in my opinion, that would need to be a condition then that
of
in order to
approval,
approve the
fire
28 foot.
department approval.
Yeah.
I think Sean had a condition.
Yep.
that We obtained fire department approval.
Okay. Councilman Wheelock?
I have a question. Would that, assuming that we would approve the 28 feet, which I'm probably not all supportive of, would that leave the Hammerhead as a no parking zone?
The
That
whole,
would-
the
Because
whole
otherwise, you're
street.
not gonna be able to turn around to.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Wheelock, the whole street would have to be signed no parking.
So the residents there would have no parking unless they were in their driveways?
Well, they have driveways that will go into their lots. So, and some of them have like shared driveways. So they would have ample parking in front of their garages and the driveways that go into their lots.
Any guest that came would have to park on their driveway, is that correct?
That's correct. There would be no parking signed along both sides of the road, plus the Hammerhead. And that's pretty consistent with other municipalities anytime we do a private road.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all I had at this point. Any further, staff, Sean?
Mr. Mayor, also within that waiver request was the waiver of sidewalks. Just want to get that on the record.
Correct, for larger lots, typically, yeah. Except for what she was talking about going north-south to the path.
Mayor,
Right.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
since we're asking questions, I have just a couple. So regarding the setbacks, so you are still requesting the R3 setback with the exception of a larger setback in the north boundary of 40 feet. Is that correct? So the other setbacks would be at R3.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Salmonson, I believe in the staff report, Sean had recommended that we had comply with the R1 setbacks, and we are comfortable with that. The only difference in that R1 is I believe the rear setback was 30 feet. And when this project was originally approved, it was approved with a 40-foot rear setback up next to the north boundary.
So we would maintain the
Yep.
40-foot setback.
So
Right, and so-
I assumed that the council would want to maintain that
Yep.
40-foot setback that was initially
Right,
proposed.
plus the R1 for the
R1
other
setbacks
side,
for
the
the other.
front
Yes,
and-
ma'am.
Okay. And then my other question, so regarding the wetland delineation study, so the only area that could have the wetlands, or it was determined to possibly have wetlands, is that lot 2? So that large lot to the east.
It's
And that
lot,
was a-
one- it's lot one. I'm
Lot
sorry,
one?
Lot one.
And was there any other area on the property that could have potential wetland?
When we walked the site, we went into this area here. They looked at the Marv kind of, they picked up plants, they looked at underneath different things. And he said this appeared to be not, it would not meet their criteria of a wetland. He said the area that he was primarily concerned with was right here. And then when we went over and we walked this area, there's kind of the way the foothills here kind of work, there's a natural kind of a drainage channel right through here. And he got down in there. There was some water present, but the vegetation wasn't what they consider to be wetland vegetation. And he did the same thing here. And so he said, my recommendation is, you should do some either preservation of this eastern side or do some further investigation. And he made the comment that if they cut the irrigation water off for 2 years, because that ditch that runs north of us, and there's another one coming in from the east, if you cut the irrigation off for 2 years, then you would know, is this really a wetland? And typically when we shut the irrigation off in an upland area, then the wetlands go away. And he said, obviously that's not possible to shut that irrigation off because there are people and properties that use it. But he said, I think he described it kind of as marginal. But even marginal wetlands have purposes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that area could have some potential wetland area, 0.25 acres, I think you said.
That's what was delineated in the study.
Yeah.
The original study.
And so by your proposal here tonight, by keeping this area open, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it correctly, that, you're preserving that area that is in question. And that appears that it's the only area in question.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. All right. And then my other question, so regarding the HOA, so the private road is going to be in a separate HOA, like the CC&Rs, but all the other things that come in the CCRs will match the rest of Colt Place. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And they would be subject to pressure irrigation assessments, common area assessments, because obviously they benefit from them
Okay.
in Colt Place. But Colt Place does not benefit from this private road or any drainage or anything to the north.
Okay. And I guess I do have one more question. So regarding the pathway, Yeah, I think we do in our master pathway map, we do show a pathway, future pathway along the foothill ditch. And so, is there, do you see any, I think we would probably have some things to work out between the city and the project to figure out along the entire foothill ditch of, and you're open to that?
Yes.
So
I
those,
don't know if you guys have an agreement with Foothills Ditch.
we're working
As
on.
far as
Yeah, we're working through
pathways.
the agreements with them, but in any worst case scenario, it could be outside their easement.
Worst case scenario is we place it outside their easement.
Yeah.
And right now I believe they have a 65-foot total easement. And so we'd place it outside the easement. Then they basically don't have any jurisdiction on a nature path. You put it in the easement, then we have to have their approval. Then they want the city to enter into an agreement, to indemnify them.
Okay.
So it kind of, it gets a sticky wicket. I know
We're getting close.
Eagle's working with them also, and I think they're all kind of falling into line. But as you can see there, there's a lot of opportunity for a pathway if you look at that overall vicinity map there.
So those property, all those individual, the 5 lots, it would be 3
So-
lots that would be impacted possibly by a public pathway easement.
All 5 would be impacted.
All 5. Well,
All 5, yeah. If it goes to clear to the west, then there would be an easement that runs along here and a nature path and an easement that runs along here to get over to
Yep.
that point. And then you can see the schools up here. I think Mr. Mayor brought up the fact that, getting some pathways and connections to the school would be great in the future.
Yeah. And I would fully support that a sidewalk along for the, and I can't remember what the name of the street is to access that property.
The north.
Wooden
Lane.
Wagon,
Wooden,
yeah.
wooden wagon
So
lane.
we would definitely need some sort of sidewalk on that road, especially since it may be narrower.
I agree.
That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
any further questions of the applicant at this time? All right, thank you. Okay, we are going to move to public testimony. I have the in favor sheet that people signed up for, and I have Miss Katie Slater that wants to speak. So just please state your name and address for the record, and Mr. Jacob over here will keep the time on that.
Thank you. Katie Slater, 2091 North Sunny Lane. I'm the house 120 feet away from their north property line. And I have diagram number 1, please. I'm here before you this evening to ask that you justly consider in goodwill for all the parties that are affected and in the spirit of the City of Stars. That's not it.
That's not, so hang on, your time won't start until he gets it pulled.
Oh, good.
So just hang on, we
I
got
gained some time.
time, so hang on.
I think I forgot my address. Honorable Mayor Chadwick
Yes,
and City Council.
is this the right one right here?
That's the right one.
Perfect.
Yes. You can't see the whole thing though, so it's got 2 different photographs.
You can minimize that a little bit. We got big TVs now, so.
There we go.
Okay.
So I'll start again. I'm here to ask you to justly consider in goodwill for all the parties involved and in the spirit of City of Stars comprehensive plan. My ask is to reduce the number of lots by 1. And I have some more information. This isn't flat farmland. And I feel as if I'm paying and should not have to pay for lack of due diligence on the part of the landowners, which is evident by the creation of a 4.63 acre park, a direct result of my earnest efforts in 2005. My husband and I have an 18-year history with that land and with the city regarding it's the plats and the requests, and we've been stewards of this land for 18 years, performing many of the routine tasks of land management. The study by Maxim Technologies, the photos from this summer, which you're seeing here, the hawks and the ponds that are on the lots 2, 3, and 4, not designated as wetlands, are here for you to digest a little of what Native Idaho is about. While the City Council approved 5 plats in 2005, those plats were an average of 1.8 acres. The average density has drastically been increased to 1.23. So there's a half an acre difference between the previous plat and the plat you see today. Of the 5 lots, only 2.5 of those lots were spanning adjacent to my property. Now all 5 of the lots have shifted adjacent to my property. Could you put up the second diagram, please? I'm requesting that the City Council and Mr. Barton approve the reduction from 5 residential lots to 4. And if you can go down further to the colored parts, what I'm concerned about is the value of my property, which I've been there for over 20 years, and my house was built in 1975. I have a very specific view I would like to protect. It's in your package, page 156, and it can easily be done with lower density directly adjacent to my lot. So what I'm showing there is pretty self-explanatory. And I'm also asking about the stranded land, but that seems to be a sore spot for me because I don't think it's going to get maintained. I also wish to address avoidance of headlights shining in my home at night. As part of the staff report on lighting called fugitive lighting, I also have a demonstration, same page, 156 of your report. Your basis for non-approval of this plat request is for redesign is that the inclusion of the road Silver Peak Lane and the stranded land south of Foothill Ditch should not be considered as part of the acreage of a private property lot of 3 and 4. They will all benefit, all 5 of those lots. And the other reason for non-approval of this plat is that the original plat and the 2005 City Council requirements have not been met for the intended density. Please don't rush this public process. The plat has been in existence for 18 years. The land is unique and highly differentiated in aspects that cannot be appreciated at a meeting. I invite you to come see what this treasure holds in the spring. It is native wild Idaho.
Okay. Do you have a copy of that you can give to our clerk to be included in the actual written? Oh, you got a copy?
Is that the written?
No, they're different. Everyone gets pared down to.
That's all right. But it's good for him to have the actual written record if that's okay with you as well. Okay, thank you. Any questions hang on, Miss Slater, let me ask. Does council have any questions of Miss Slater? Okay, thank you. Just want to make certain. Thank you. All right. Onto the page with the against. We'll start with Miss Peggy Fahey. Is that right? What is it? Fay? Okay. I apologize. Now, real quick, does she have a presentation? Okay. So hang on, let him get that pulled up for you before you get going.
All right.
All right, go ahead, ma'am. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Peggy Fay. My address is 10274 West Wyatt Drive.
Okay.
Okay, so as I'm speaking, I request council members to watch this short video. It's a silent video. But this is the view of the subject area from my backyard. And as you can see, this is what I see in the morning when I come out. This was a summer morning. This is what I see when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning. And with this proposal, all of that will disappear. All of those trees are the trees that road will take the place of. My home is directly east of Wagon Wheel Lane. So I am the resident most impacted in Colt Place subdivision. The resident on the far west, that's a renter, so not an interested party. I am concerned with the development as it's proposed, because not only will it have devastating effects on the land and the wildlife that we see, and I am happy to hear that the major part of the wetlands is being preserved, but I would like to see the whole area preserved and placed into a conservation trust to protect it from future development. That would be the optimal output or outcome, in my opinion. I'm concerned about the negative depreciation in my property values, because I will now be looking at 5 homes, potentially 4, if Katie's ask is met. And I'll be looking at a road, not only right in front of me, but also to the right of me. And all of the disruption that brings along as development takes place. It's going to be all of the construction vehicles and equipment that is going to be impacting me. So my ask is that the council members visit this site, see for yourselves what it entails, and take that into consideration with all of the information that you have before you decide. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Miss Peggy? No? Okay. You got a question? Hang on,
Sure.
Miss Peggy.
Shoot.
I read your paper with all your responses.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I read your paper with all your responses, and I took note that you said in one that rather than remaining neutral, it seemed as if city officials were arguing and advocating for an outcome that had already been determined
Yes.
and decided perhaps behind closed doors.
Yes.
I took offense to that because as an honest city councilman, and I know the integrity of these people,
Mhm.
it's hard to have a fair and objective opinion when you're being told that you're doing stuff behind closed doors before you ever even see the project.
Mhm.
And I'd just like to let you know, we're here doing our best job. And that's what we're doing to serve the cities of Star. I've been here an awful long time, not as long as some, but longer than most in this room. And I want you to know we're doing the best we can to be honest in our dealings.
Can I respond?
Please.
I was talking about Sean Nickel and Ryan. During that meeting, it was the residents, and it was Corey Barton, and it was Sean and Ryan. And while I was speaking, I had the Becky McKay, engineer, and Sean and Ryan, all 3 speaking over the top of me and arguing about this particular proposal and how it would benefit all parties. So that, in my mind, I got the impression that they were arguing for something that they had already come to a conclusion between themselves before the meeting took place. That was my impression.
And to be clear, they're interested parties for the city.
Mhm.
This is the city council that will
Yes.
make that decision.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Miss Carol Ward?
I'm Carol Ward, 2090 North Sunny Lane. And get this.
Okay.
That's it. Can you, go to slideshow?
State your address again for me.
Oh, sorry. 2090 North Sunny Lane. in Stock. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. think I was watching other people, so I hope, but I'm not too tech savvy either. Okay. So just my comment is that with the, I noticed that Hawaii County is limiting their farmland development, and Eagles, I believe the city of Eagle is limiting development north of Beacon Light Road. So I get the impression sometimes that developers think that Star is an easy mark, but I really think Star is better. So just bear in mind that whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. You know, this will affect the community. This will affect, you know, Idaho in general. That's who the credit is. So sliding homes, I saw this from myself over in Boise, so that's why I bring it up. You have, this shows you the original. Yeah, there's the original surface. There's the excavated area, and there you have a potential for sliding. Notice this, because because this is not flat land. I mean, you look at on the flats, it looks like it's flat, but it's not flat. It's sloping. And then we have the original ground surface, and then you have potential failure. And notice that, you know, this is all in risk of sliding down. There's not a golf course at the bottom. There is a ditch that could fill up and flood. And this, I wanted to show you Boise's because it's really serious. And the slide, this came before the Snowmageddon when we had all that snow. This happened before that. Okay. So, you know, this is what happens of houses slid, and this is the development. And you notice that it's not all that steep where they built it. Okay. There's some more sliding. So the city had to pay. This all had to be demolished, and then they had to pay. And those are, you can read the details yourself, but the city of Boise had to pay a little bit, you know, not recompensing them, but paying a little bit to the homeowners, and they had to pay to demolish the houses because they had to be gotten rid of. And so it cost them $315,200, and not accounting the attorney fee, which I'm sure is a lot. Okay. So what they do now, by the way, in Boise is they require a second engineer, one by the developer and another private with no interest in it, to be paid. So two engineers of the site, and the developer pays for both. Okay. Endangered plants. They checked off that there are none in that area, but I wondered, did anybody actually check? Because I'm going to show you where they are actually in Idaho. This is in the foothills in Eagle. Okay. This is the area where you'll see the endangered plants. Okay. These are, I won't read all these because I don't have time, but some of these, if you see that have those numbers on them, they're at risk of being demolished or extinct totally. Okay. So notice that little tiny red area there. That's right where the subdivision is proposed, and that's the only place that particular Boise Sam verbena grows. Notice the Ace's onion, another rare plant, and that's right in the same area too. And then we have the slick spot peppergrass, which has a larger area, but it's not a very big area. And those are the designations of it. So these are all endangered species. And same thing with Mulford's milkweed. So I suggest, and I would request that there actually be a study done by a botanist to actually see, and it'll have to be done in the spring, of course, if there's any of those on the property.
30 seconds.
Okay. So that's just what the habitat looks like. So it's similar. And those are the junk trees that initially that they were threatening to take out. This is the south end of my property. So, and also the Treasure Valley Land Trust is interested in purchasing the property. I've had communication with them. And that's all I have.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you. And so you could have a copy of these slides, right? All the slides that everybody's showing, you're going to give them to Jacob. Okay, thank you. All right. We're going to move on down. So Mr. Chad, I noticed you didn't sign up to speak, but we got Miss Amy speaking. Is that correct? You were voluntold?
Before I get started, would you mind bringing up the presentation that shows the aerial of the plot?
Amy, can you tell me your last name?
Yes, Berg,
She
B-E-R-G.
hasn't gotten to that point yet. We're getting the presentation up before we get.
Reload.
Not a problem while he's working on that. Our address is 10296 West Wyatt Earp Drive. The proposed,
Becky's slides.
yes.
What are
with
Becky's
aerial.
slides to the aerial?
Yes, that one, thank you. Just so everyone's clear, our home is number 8 there on the Wyatt Earp Drive there. And so as it is currently proposed, there are now potentially 3 homes that may be viewed from our home now, depending on how they're situated. I'm speaking on behalf of my husband and myself. We purchased this home a year ago, and when we purchased this home, it was not disclosed to us about any potential development by our realtor nor the title company. So I'll be honest with you, had we had known that this land was looked at for potential, we would not have bought our home. This home was purchased because of the privacy afforded to us by the wetlands that are in question. All the trees are habitat for the hawks, the pheasants, the herrings, the turkeys, and the occasional wild peacock that comes through. Peggy's also had the opportunity to see the occasional deer that has wandered into the back area. Now, as already alluded to, that is wild Idaho. I implore the council and Mayor Chadwick, not everything has to be concrete and steel. We should consider preserving some of what's left of what made Star Star before it is the concrete jungle that Boise has become. With that in mind, my family and I would like to politely suggest to the council to consider entering into agreements with all parties considered on trying to find an amicable solution that preserves this habitat, whether marginal or not. Because no matter how we develop, it's going to impact the economic or the wetlands. We'll just call them the wetlands and those habitats that are there. It will impact vegetation, whether endangered or not, and what is lost will not be gotten back. Whether this agreement looks like reducing the size of plots or entering in a land conservatorship with Corey Barton Homes, I implore the council to take their time to consider all the possibilities before agreeing or rejecting any proposal. There are possibilities that could make almost everyone happy. And I say almost everyone because there's always that one outlier. As it sits right now for my family, there's one window that faces those properties. It belongs to my preteen daughter. And you may call me a neurotic mother, but now I have the potential of 3 homes that could look into her window instead of a family of hawks. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Berg? Okay, thank you. All right. Let's see what we got. Mr. Michael Ware.
Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Ware, W-A-R-E. I live at 10178 West Virginia City Street in Colt Place in Star.
Okay.
I don't have a presentation per se. I do have some concerns for this proposal. My background, I'm a retired forest ecologist, silviculturist, and forest engineer. A couple of things I'm concerned of. One is the adverse impact to the existing roads in Colt Place just for the construction of homes in these lots if they were developed. If you look at the equipment that's being brought in for all these developments, the roads are crumbling. They haven't been built to carry that kind of a load. So I do have a concern there that we at least have some kind of process to maintain the roads when this work would be done, if it's done. Part of that too is the turning radius for the proposed single road. Unless you start limiting the size of these trucks that are coming in and out, you aren't going to make it. That is not a 55-foot radius curve, not with the width they're proposing. So it could be an engineering nightmare. I'm not sure, haven't done the engineering, but it could be. Another concern that my family and I have is I understand that the cost of the roads, the bridge, so on would not impact the current Colt Place Property Association. But I am not sure that we're going to be able to, through the city, provide adequate water and sewer treatment for these continued additions. We've lived in our house 4 years next month. In 4 years, we've had several subdivisions in that side of town come on board. The city upgraded its water system and sewer system, and I applaud that. But we're still having lower and lower water pressure. Every time we add one of these, whether it's only 4 houses or it's 50 houses, we're going to have some impacts to the city. And I don't know, the pig's going to run out of financial squeal, as well as just the facilities to take care of these needs. One last thing, I am concerned that there is only a single ingress egress from this addition. If there was some kind of disaster and people had to get out of there, and yeah, there's only, I'm assuming, 4 homes to be built, they only have one way to go. There's no other road ingress or egress, which is in some areas a requirement that you have 2 or more. And I do not know city code requirements and so forth, but I think it's something we need to consider in an emergency plan situation. I really probably shouldn't have signed up as against this. I should have signed up as sort of neutral, but I have great concerns for the development and how it's going to impact not only my neighborhood, but the city in general. So, thank you.
Mr. Ware, do you want me to switch you over to neutral or do you want me to leave you on the against? Because I can move over.
Put me over on the, I guess, the neutral.
The neutral side, okay?
Yes, thank you.
And just real quick, I just want to point out something that the fire code requires only 1 ingress egress up to 30 homes. So that's the fire code. So the fire code allows 1 access point only on that. So just so you're aware.
I didn't know what our code was. So thank you for clarification.
You betcha. Thank you for testifying. Okay, Miss Maxine McCombs.
Maxine McCombs, 2211 North Shriner Lane. Hi. City Council, I just wanted to come up and give my support to those that are against this development. You know, I am for open land, open areas, open habitat for our wildlife. I've been out there on Shriner Lane for almost 30 years. And I used to have herds of deer come by my property and I totally enjoyed them. We had eagles nesting in the trees down in our gully. We had quail. I one time counted 200 quail flew out of my front yard as I watched them run across it. And that's all gone. The majority of that is all gone. And I think we need to save what we have left. We don't have much left. And what was said before is once we lose it, it's gone. And we're not going to get it back. And this is our only chance to keep this portion of land in a wildlife habitat. And I would really encourage you to think strongly about doing that. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Any questions of Ms. Maxine? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Lisa Jensen, I think, I just want to make sure you said no, but I just want to make, you don't want to speak, okay. And is it Jensen? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we got, I think it's, is it Mr. John McGukin? Okay, thank you. I'll come back to you at the end of this and ask again real quick, okay? Ms. Rosalind Studeris? All right, sorry about that if I said it wrong.
Rosalind Studeris, 6474 Foothill Road. I'm here in support of keeping everything as rural as possible. I've lived here about 9 years, and I was a person that moved here that was not aware of impact areas and did not know I was living in an impact area, either for the city of Star or for the city of Middleton. So I have watched a lot of areas that were considered rural now being considered as high development, in high density development, or just more development in general. So I'm in support of anything that keeps it more rural, and I would like to see the wetlands protected in this 4.63 acre property as much as possible, and even developed more. I'm not in favor of the development at all. I would like to remind you of a parcel of land that was at Munger and New Hope several years ago. And there were a number of trees, a bank of trees on that parcel. And as per, it seems to be the policy that you invited the Fish and Game to come in and do an analysis of this piece of property. I followed through to see what happened in the committee meetings, and your agenda committee followed up with that. I just kept track of it for a couple of months. And what I found out was, even though Fish and Game had analyzed this area and suggested that you not allow it to be developed, that there's so much development going on that they felt that so many of these wetlands and flyover destinations were being destroyed in the whole development area, that they did not want that approved for development. But you allowed it to be developed anyway. I feel that now that that area is gone, and as important as it was to Fish and Game that it not be developed, it's even more important now that this area not be developed. And I'm not trying to be a cranky old woman.
You're not, you're
But-
passionate, and that's okay.
Yes, but I'm just very concerned about all of the development that's going on, and that those of us that moved here that came from agricultural backgrounds or just loved the whole idea of more open spaces, that is eroding. It's being eroded at such a great speed that we, as other people here have stated, you can't get it back. And that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for letting me. give
Any-
my piece.
Hang on, Ms. Rosalind. I just want to make sure nobody has a question. Any questions for Ms. Rosalind? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Layla Lockhart? Hey, now it's your time.
I'm known for speaking a lot. Anyways, I live on 10158.
Just state your name also, and then,
Layla Lockhart. I live on 10158 Wyatt Earp Drive.
and it's Lockhart, right?
Yes,
10158 Wyatt Earp Drive.
right.
Okay, thank you.
And I've been there for 7 years. with my husband. We were also told that that green area would remain before we purchased. So we purchased based on the idea that that was going to be a permanent thing. In fact, we asked repeatedly and we're told, oh no, there was a designated plan that has been made obsolete. So we are right behind at the southernmost end of the densest green area. It's going to be hopefully preserved. And I really do appreciate all of you considering this as much as you are. And I do also appreciate your trying to work with it. But as other people who are in close proximity have observed, unless you're actually there, you really don't get the grasp of how connected that total piece of green area really is. I'm south of where the largest poplar nesting area is. They're poplars, cottonwoods that I believe probably could be designated champions. They're equivalent to any size that I have heard as like an outstanding size for a mature cottonwood in the United States. But that champion designation isn't active right now. But anyways, so in 7 years, observing directly, like right from my windows, the several nests that are there for the hawks, there have only been 2 successful nestings of young hawks because of the fires, because of nests becoming unstable through the weather. They finally have really learned and really built a sturdy nest in a good part of that tree. But when you look around, that is about the only area that they have as an option. And it's very, very close to the ditch. It's right over the ditch. I would never recommend having any footpath underneath that area because they're highly sensitive. They've only managed to exist there because they are so fertile and sensitive. If I go down to the area that is the access point for the new development plan, I have to be really careful. If I walk a little too fast or make a little too much noise, they immediately disappear. And they're only, as everyone has stated, just part of a very large group of, seasonally varying bird life that's there. And that includes the mini goldfinch that everybody's counting on the greenbelt because they're endangered. Blackbirds, red-winged blackbirds, just a number of different bird life. There's about a dozen turkeys living in there. There were at 1.5 deer living there. I mean, I counted everything, to keep up, and the numbers have gone severely down because of the feeding grounds around there, the rodents available from surrounding lands. And I'm really worried that with the noise impact and the further destruction of the top layer of any of the land around there, that whatever remains there is going to have a really hard time surviving. And okay, so I would never, and I also would like to pose the fire risk of, let's just say middle school students do things like I did when I was their age. Let's go smoke in those trees over there. So it also in the dry times is a potential fire risk if we bring it too close into a footpath. But that's another subject. I think that a nature path is possible, possibly on the south side, but there'd have to be some barrier between the residents and that. So I hope we do get a wildlife path through there. And I appreciate your considering what's there as one of the last areas in Star that really nests quietly the birds. Thank you.
Any questions for Miss Layla? No? Okay, thank you. Mr. John, do you want to, before I move on to the next sheet? Go past Kate, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the neutral side. Mr. Bob Fairlau.
My name is Bob Fairlau. I live at 2203 North Sunny Lane, Star, Idaho. I am just north of the Slater lot. And you've already heard how special this area is and how sensitive this is and how much it should be preserved. So I'm going to move past that. The current proposal itself reflects the developer's understanding of this by making the lot number 1 an open space, permanent open space. And I thank them for doing that. It is definitely a responsible and beneficial solution. I would request, as we did in the laying tree bungalows to the east of this, that be surrounded by open style fencing so that wildlife can migrate through there in relationship to that space. But there are also sensitive wetland areas in that other area to the green area to the left on that drawing, near the intersection of Silver Peak Lane and Wooden Wagon Lane. And I asked that the recommendation of the Army Corps of Engineers did ask that those wetlands be delineated and marked. I haven't heard anybody speak to that, but that was on the letter from Army Corps of Engineers. So one of the reasons why this area is so special is because that level right there is that bench that changes. You can see that as you drive up Brandon, that hill that's on Brandon. So right where that road, the proposed road is where the level elevation shifts up to access the lots that are up on the level that are even with the Slater lot. That's why the impact is so great, because that road actually is accessing the rim of the lot that's right in front of the Slater. So that's why I think that should be taken into account. In the project narrative by the developer, it states that the roads in the access will be owned by the development. So that is not private land, it's owned by development. This drawing, if you look at the acreage, is not accurate, because the lot acreage above the road in lot number 4 is actually only 0.66 acres. The lot acreage in lot number 3 is actually only 0.77 acres above the road. The road shouldn't be counted as part of the acreage of the lot. Those lots are required to be 1 acre because they're adjoining the special transition overlay area directly to the north. So in their right in their grading plan, it actually lists those roads and the area below the road along the canal as 2 separate lots. That, I believe, is what they're alluding to as 2 common lots. Those 2 common lots should not be added into the acreage of the existing lots. And therefore, those 2 lots don't meet that minimum requirement. So my suggestion is that those 2 lots be merged and they be then reduced by 1. And that would also allow the developer to be able to shelter some of that potential wetland area that's in that southeast corner of lot number 3. So in conclusion, if lots number 3 and 4 were combined into 1 and height restrictions on the structures were put in place so that the impact would be less for the Slaters, that also landscape buffering and approved building pad locations were located, and the open style fencing, as I noted earlier, were all put in the development agreement, then I do think that this could be a successful and responsible plan for a difficult and critical site. So I thank you.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Real quick. So when you say open style fencing, you're talking through the whole development, correct?
Specifically for the lot number 1 that is set aside.
Next to the,
Yeah, I would really, I mean, all of the fencing within bordering Star Acres, I believe everywhere around it is open style fencing that wildlife can get through. And so I would prefer that open style fencing be incorporated all along the north boundary for that same reason.
so you're talking like a 3-rail fence kind of style?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would be also in kind with the same type of fencing that's already
In Star Acres?
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, it's not all, a lot of it's just barbed wire, but it's open.
Right.
I specifically left my border,
You're in the
open
county.
style.
not barbed wire.
but I specifically left it open style. It's not rail, it's just solid wire.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bob?
I have a few.
Okay,
One.
Councilman Hershey?
First off, I've heard you at like a year's worth of these meetings, so you being neutral just blew my mind. But
Well, I'm neutral in the fact that I have suggestions that would make it better.
this is a list you're usually not on. So it's not a bad thing.
Well, it's kind of changed, but keep going.
So you said, I just want to make sure I captured it. Which 2 lots do you say were not?
Does this, let me try
acre?
and figure out this pointer.
It was.
Push the top button to get the pointer.
Was it
Ryan?
3 and 4?
Is it top,
The same
top button
G-
to get the pointer? Here you go.
Okay, these 2 lots right here. Okay, this lot, if you, okay, they say right in their, what do they call it? In their writing, the developer says that this road is owned by the whole development. Therefore, it's not owned by any of these lots. So it shouldn't be actually accounted for in the acreage of these 2 lots. This lot, and this lot are over 1 acre. These 2 lots, not including this road, this lot right here is only, I just did it by scale, and I could be off by a couple of percentage points on acreage, but it's 0.66 acres, this one right here. And this one is 0.77. So neither of these lots meet the requirement that makes it abutting this property line right here, which is a special transition overlay area. These are required to be 1 acre. So if they combine these 2 lots, it would then make only 3 lots bordering the Slater property. And they could also, I think, there is potential wetland area in here. There is a drainage that comes up through here. This is not only caused by irrigation. And so if they combine these 2, they could potentially incorporate a small amount of this area to preserve that wetland area. And it would still be over 1 acre if they combined these 2 lots and incorporate some of this. One of the questions I had when we had our meeting that was never addressed is all of the trees that run along basically right here are kind of right at the top of the ridge as it climbs up from plateau to plateau. Oops, can I get back to that last one, Sean? I messed it up. Thank you. This area right here, which they, in their grading plan, actually they have all this area under here as a separate lot. Rightfully so, because it'll be hard for the property owners above to be able to maintain that. So this area down here, which is listed as a separate lot in the grading plan, should be a separate lot, and therefore shouldn't be added to the acreage up in these lots. But what I asked is, why weren't they able to move this road down a little bit in order to be able to reduce the impact on the trees that are right here that everybody is obviously wanting to, and rightfully so, wanting to be able to say. The easement in this area, I think a lot of the canal easement, I have stated to the developer that why can't they move this down? That would save a lot of the trees. Although it's still, even if they move this road down, these 2 lots would still not be 1 acre each. That wouldn't solve that problem, but it could save some of the trees.
Okay,
That answer your question, Mr. Hershey?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Any further questions of Mr. Bob?
We know what those lot numbers are.
Yeah, 3 and 4.
Thank you.
Yep. That's what the ones you're referencing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Mayor,
can't-
Councilman Wheelock's got a question.
I'm going to hold mine, but for developer, but I have questions about the road access that might impact that same question.
Okay.
Wait later.
Yeah, we can wait with Miss Becky can answer that for you up there. Okay.
So,
Further questions of Mr. Bob? Thank you, sir.
all right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Mr. Vic War?
Hi, my name's Vic War. I live at 2050 North Brandon. I own the property just immediately to the west of lots 5 and 6. And so I'm, as Bob is not really for or against this development, we're here for information purposes. But I do have a couple of problems with them trying to build on those lots on the west side of lots 5 and 6. That's extremely steep drainage there. It's going to take a lot of fill. I don't know where, if they're going to bring fill in there to bring those lots up, or if they're going to try and level all those lots and take fill off the high sides and fill those spots. But there are some real steep gullies through those first couple lots. The other thing, as I agree with, I was going to bring this up as those, see if I can get this, these areas here, I really feel as well as there needs to be something done there, that those are just, could be real problem areas as far as trying to maintain that, who's responsible, who's going to take care of the weeds. That water and all that area is draining directly into the ditch. And so I just, they said there were 2 common lots, and I, at least according to this plat map, I see the one open area, number 1, and then I don't know where the other 2 common lots are. Is that those 2 lots on both sides of the entrance road?
So we'll have Miss Becky kind of, we have to have it on the record. So we got to wait till she comes back up to clarify that for you.
I didn't know if that's 2 common lots or 3 common lots separated with that entrance road. I would be opposed to an access to the west of that road, because then that dead ends right into my property. And where does it go from there? You know, the company does have an easement there, but that's only an easement. It's not a road. They've never used it as, I've been there 10 years. They've never accessed or done anything there.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. War? All right. Thank you, sir. You know, sorry. We got Mr. John Truax. Is that right? Truax. You still here? Okay. Well, he said no anyway to speak, so I just wanted to make certain. Okay, Miss Becky, that's all that signed up to speak. You want to come up? You got 10 minutes, barring any questions of council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Becky McKay. Back to. So the meeting that we had with the staff, the intent was not to bully or talk over some of the neighbors. I think it was trying to, I guess, we don't get to in this environment, a hearing environment, to interact in a discussion type roundtable type environment. So I thought it was a very good idea of Sean to set that meeting up, to give us that opportunity to sit in that roundtable and exchange ideas. There were some things that they liked. There were some things they disliked. We obviously wanted, Mr. Barton even came to the meeting, and he was there mostly listening. You know, he wanted to hear what the neighbors had to say and what their concerns were. You know, he obviously wants to be a good neighbor. He developed the Colt Place development. This property, he's been paying property taxes on it since the 15 years that he's owned it. And it was always identified that there would be 5 lots. It was stated that we're increasing the density. No, we're not. It's still 5 lots on 10.97 acres. Pictures were shown concerning Boise Foothills development. That is completely different than what we have here. I mean, there is no comparison. I'm very aware of what transpired at Terra Nativa. I think everybody, when the information came out, they had areas in the foothills where they had filled 200 feet. And they had filled an area that was a natural spring. And that natural spring that they filled in their geotech did not recognize it or thought that it was going to work, obviously created instability. And I drove up there because I was just curious. I wanted to see before they had it all closed off how bad it was. You know, a lot of lawsuits went around, but this particular piece of property does not have slopes even close to what Terra Nativa had. You know, this property's right there on the edge. As you start, you know, elevation starts going up. I live north of Beacon Light. I'm right at that edge. My property has elevation differences. There's no instability. We don't intend on coming into this property and filling that natural drainage. The gentleman that has the property to the west, that is not our intent. And in our conversations with the city engineer, we will have to meet all the hillside requirements. We'll have to have a grading and drainage plan. We'll have to have building pad areas identified showing. We just don't go in and just make everything flat. We're going to design this to utilize the topography. And that's the right way to do development in this area, where you create a natural pad for the home itself, for the yard, and then incorporate the natural topography. A lot of times we'll do small retaining walls. We'll do rocks, different things. You saw in that picture that they had a retaining wall in their rear yard on one of the adjoining homeowners. There was concerns about the infrastructure. Is the infrastructure here to handle this? This is 5 lots. Yes, the infrastructure, when we designed the sewer, when we designed the water, it was designed, it was modeled to serve just 5 lots up there. And it's stubbed and it's there. I haven't heard about any issues in the development about their domestic water pressure. I have heard that there are issues about their pressurized irrigation pressure. And come to find out, there was supposed to be another pump added that was not added. and there is a blank there where that pump should be. We have agreed, it's in my application, that we will add that pump, that we will make repairs to that building, that any repairs necessary. And I think the city engineer said we need to provide a pressurized irrigation report demonstrating that obviously the pump station with the upgrade can irrigate the upper 5 lots. Concern about the single lot access. I think Mr. Mayor mentioned that the International Fire Code allows us to have one point of access if we have less than 30 lots. There is one access, but when you only have 5 lots, that's all you need. We need to meet all the fire department requirements, which we will. As far as the grading and the location of that street, the location of the street in your code, it indicates that a private road may be a separate lot or it may be an easement. Here, we show that as an easement. Those lot lines do go down through that private road. If I can move that private road a little bit south, I will. But the engineer, the project engineer is going to determine and set that road location based on grading. Because we have a condition that states that we have to match any grade at our boundaries, whether that be on the north boundary or the west boundary, and adjacent to the canal. I can't come in and grade into that easement or create any situation where we have erosion going into the foothill ditch and creating sediment. So what I did where we laid that street out was I left enough room that we can do the proper grading. And if we can move it south, we'll move it south. If we can save a tree, we'll try to save a tree. It's not like we just run out there with the chainsaws. We want this to be estate lots. That's what's designated, in your comprehensive plan, state, urban, residential designation. It talks about up to 3 dwelling units, 1 to 2 dwelling units in sensitive areas. We're 0.46. So I think when you look at the findings that are laid out in that staff report, I think we have proven that we meet all those findings. And it was mentioned, open style fencing. Open style fencing, I think, would be a great idea. That creates that more rural look, that more estate look. I like it. And there was questions about, you need to put this in the development agreement. I want to make it very clear, the development agreement pre-exists. That was signed by the city, by the original developer. It runs with the land. It is still valid, which states that we can develop up to 5 lots. We recognize, Mr. Barton recognizes the sensitivity of this area, but he also recognizes the fact that, he needs to do something with it. He's paid his taxes on it for 15 years and has done nothing with it. I want to assure the city and the staff and the neighbors that when we do our building pads and our grading plan, that we will work closely with the city staff to make sure that we're trying to alternate our pads, that we're not just doing them, in a line. I think Ms. Slater's comments in the packet were concerned that we would just have a very linear type pads. And as far as that small detention area it was completely dry when we were in there. I mean, it's just kind of like a low point. And so when, we have to rely on our experts, which have delineated where there are potential wetlands, which are in our common lot number 1. And secondly, when Mr. Griffith was out there with us. He indicated that he did not have a problem with that area being developed, where our street comes up and where that kind of cluster of trees are. But, you know, if we can save trees, it makes the lots a lot nicer. And where we're going to be dictating, unlike, you know, an urban lot, you can build anywhere except in the setbacks. In estate lots like this, we can dictate the grading, the pads, and everything. But it's not going to be cost effective. I mean, if we start whittling down the number of lots, I have to have a concrete structure that can handle 80,000 gross vehicle weight go across that foothills ditch. I mean, those aren't cheap. Extending sewer, water, doing the proper grading. You know, pretty soon it becomes uneconomical if you keep whittling it down. And we feel that we've worked and voluntarily agreed to defer this multiple times to make sure that that we got it right. And I think we've got it right. Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Miss Becky? Do you have questions of Becky or staff based on what your question was on the road?
Yeah, probably now is a good time.
Now is your only time.
Now is my only time, so I better get my questions about the road. And I understand that it's got to be a certain place on the hill. And my point of view is, if it's where it is now, even if you move it down, if I'm a new homeowner and I have dead trees in the front of my lot, I'm going to cut them down after you're done anyway, would be my opinion. Maybe I'd be wrong, but that would be what I would expect a new homeowner to do if it were a dead tree, even if it were habitat.
Yes.
I would encourage you to move it as far this way towards the ditch as you could. And to me, a 28-foot road with only parking in people's driveway leaves no room for people to come and see a homeowner. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my opinion. If the road were wide enough to have a car parked and still have a 28-foot road, that would suffice the guests that would eventually come to visit these people that have got a beautiful home, I'm assuming. That would be my opinion. And it would also suffice to, if you could bring it this way and lower it, obviously, right? Because the road's on that hill. I've gone and looked at the property from both sides, all that. The Slaters, I guess, from behind, were hoping that the road would be lower so that the headlights didn't go in their house, which I can respect. Maybe that could be a middle ground between the two and solve problem in the front and the back. It's probably going to leave more room for a trail, for a nature trail anyway, or be closer to the trail for those that are walking on it. That would be my thoughts, and I just wanted to share that before it was not a public opinion or a public testimony.
Any comments to that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Willock, unlike a standard urban lot that we need on-street parking, because, you know, you can only park 2 or 3 in the driveway, you know, whether it's 2-car or 3-car garage. With lots that are this size, this width, this depth, I mean, we're going to have some nice driveways, and that'll be designed in the grading plan too. So, you know, everything will be part of that grading plan. And so we can, you know, we'll be able to accommodate cars within their driveways, because their driveways will be longer than what you see on a normal urban lot. And then they'll also have the pad in front of, and each one of these, I'm sure, will have minimum of a 3-car garage, if not a 4-car garage, depending on the homes. These will, like I told the neighbors, would be custom homes. You know, people that want a larger lot, and this is what, we're providing them. But they would have to obviously construct within the confines of our engineered plan.
Okay, any further questions of Miss Becky?
Kind of, I just don't know how to phrase it.
We'll just ask her and see how it comes out.
God knows I've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I originally thought this was a absolute no-brainer. There's an entitlement. And there is an entitlement, but here's something. It doesn't matter to me how many taxes he's paid. I mean, he bought the land, that's his own problem. It's also the same that your realtor lied to you. They do not represent me, they do not represent my city. I know when I bought my house, I looked at exactly what the house was. I saw where the fence was going to stop, and that's as far as my questions went. And if you want to look in the windows when I'm changing, you go right the hell ahead. You're going to do that once. But I can understand that too. I've raised 5 kids. I now, as of 1 week ago, have 15 grandchildren. And 16's on the way, June. All right. And I understand you getting over something. So this road, which I really am with Councilman Wheelock, I'd like it moved. But if you can't, I would love it if you did actually just merge those 2 lots. I mean, it would just save, I think it'd be a fantastic compromise. I realize it is going against the original entitlement you have, but I think it'd be a fantastic compromise. And I am willing, because of consideration, what I can offer, maybe these guys will agree with, and maybe they won't, maybe you won't. But I do believe we can waive any impact fee the city of Star would charge you for the 4 houses.
On the city side.
The city, not the fire.
Not the fire, not ACH.
No, just the city side.
You don't like control what the park impact fee.
And the proportionate share.
No, they got to pay the proportionate share.
Okay, well, you're really making my argument sound lesser, but yes, the impact fees on that would be a consideration that I do believe we can do, and I know we've done it in the past.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Hershey, I guess my client's not here to turn to this evening and say, hey, what do you think of that? I obviously don't have the authority to negotiate that. I would have to go back to my client and see if he was open to your suggestion. And like I said, there's some fixed costs in here that obviously make it viable. And we have to be cognizant of that. And these larger lots, they're more, the engineering's more, construction's more. So the costs are always considerably greater. And that's why people pay so much for them, because it costs a lot to bring them on.
Oh, I think these are going to be beautiful homes.
I think that would be
really do.
wonderful. And I really think it'd be an addition to Star, and it was the vision of the original project.
But, yeah.
It was a transition to Star Acres.
So here's another question. Why 17 years later now are they building it? Why not when they first started? Why did this piece see? I mean, you would think from my experience on council that the argument would be down in the R3, never in the R1. But this time it's different.
Right.
Now, I cannot identify this area from any other in Star, to be honest with you. I do not site visit or anything like that. That is something we were told not to do unless you just happen to know the area. But so this is developed, and the company's done well developing it. I have not heard anyone complain about things. I'm just asking if you could take it back to them. I'd be happy to table and wait for an answer or approve, and then you can come back and ask for reconsideration if he doesn't like it. But I think it would really solve a lot of problems because that road, you called it more of an easement, correct?
Yeah, yes, it's an easement. So we have 2, I guess there's confusion. There are 2 common lots on the plat that is before you. There is this common lot you see here, this 65 feet of frontage. And this is where the private road begins. And then we have lot 1 that is the other common lot. And then the roadway the easement and the road itself will be jointly owned by those 5 lot owners. And it is included in the acreage of the lots.
And it's, I just want to be clear, it's no different than a canal easement or utility easement. Those are
Right.
always included in the acreage of the lots or in your density of your lots.
And the other thing,
If this was a public road, that'd be different.
right,
Well, it's
It's a private road.
quasi-public. There's no gate or anything like that. It's just a private.
Well, you don't
road
have to
because
have
they're
a
trying.
for a pub
Well,
or
they're trying to a
private.
private road to keep it more narrow. That's the idea behind the private road.
one other thing I failed to mention was this width here is 65 feet. Obviously, we're only taking up 28, and then we'll have the 5-foot sidewalk along one side here. I did tell the lot owners, right now, this is just all gravel. That we will come in and we will landscape both sides of that and then around that pump house. We have to allow access to the pump house in the event they need to pull the pumps or add when they add the pumps. But we will landscape so that there'll be some type of a buffer for that private road. And keeping it 28 feet keeps it, obviously, the impact smaller on the adjoining properties and allows me more area to landscape and buffer those 2 lots that are on each side of it.
It's just strange. They've just never seen a road as an easement before. Easements to me are easements, like goat trails almost.
You want to talk to it, Sean?
Yeah, it's not, I'm just not getting that. It's not getting it.
Mr. Mayor, council members, yes, you very regularly have approved subdivisions with easements for their private roads. Even Crest on Brandon. It's a perfect example. They're 1 acre lots with the private road within the lots themselves.
Isn't it at the very edge though?
Yeah, but it's a private road. I mean, it doesn't matter where it's at on the property on there.
So the usable area is not exactly an acre, because the road takes up portions of it. And there are other examples as well. So this is not out of the ordinary. And your code does allow easement or.
Yeah, it's just, I guess I'm just not used to the easement being more off the border.
I think Councilman Wheelock, you want to follow up on?
I just to support that blending of lot 3 and 4. And I guess to my thought is as I recognize that the road being so narrow, it makes it easier for us to, or makes it easier for me to support the project, because I'm a fan of 32-foot roads for everything. I probably drive the biggest vehicle in the world, or at least it feels like it sometimes. So my opinion is wider is always better. And when you think about making a 28-foot bridge across that canal that supports that weight, or a 32, we're making some sacrifices too from the city side. If we're supporting a 28-foot wide road, I guess it's a give and take for if you blend the lot 3 and 4 together and make it a sacrifice on your side. That's to me the sacrifice that the city's making to make a narrower road to accept that.
So I'm going to make a suggestion. I'm going to suggest that we table this to February 7th. Nope. Because we may not have all the council members here on the 17th. So I just want to make certain that we're not hosing ourselves. On
I
public hearing
am
night.
back in town on the 17th. It's the rest of the month. I'm stuck. I'm just saying.
I would rather us do it on February 7th. I hate to say that. I know we're full, but we got to understand as a council that we're going to go later than 10 on that night to do that, because I don't want us to commit to February or January 17th with so many things that's been up in the air on the number of people that'll be here. Need to say that. For you to give time to talk to Corey, I guess, ask him his question about what these guys are saying, and we can leave this open only for that product of answering that question. And then the deliberations can continue until then. And I need to make the public fully aware that you're not allowed to contact any one of these council members about this project at this point in that time frame. That's not allowed. It's still an open public hearing. I'm telling everybody. I'm not looking at you, Bob. Well, I am, because you're in the front row. That's why some of these didn't sit in the front row. But I just want to make sure you're fully aware that you cannot speak to the council members on this until we come back.
Yeah, I was just gonna, you said it was an open public hearing, but the public hearing portion has closed, the public input portion of the hearing.
Well, correct.
And so that's why we're saying that the public can't comment.
Right.
And so the council right now has received all the information it's going to receive from the public. We're leaving the public hearing portion open only for the extent of hearing what the developer's response is to the proposal. And then the council will deliberate based on that information that they receive whenever the tabled hearing is held. And so just under the laws that we have in Idaho, the council can only listen to information that's gained during the public hearing process. And so that's why the mayor is being very strict about this, so that we don't violate the law and have the council communicating too much and receiving information that the rest of the public maybe isn't hearing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it stays above report, right, on this whole thing.
So, Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
I do have a meeting with Mr. Barton tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So we are flexible. If you wanted to do January 17th, if that is a viable, that would be fine. We can, I mean, I think we can bring back a response in that fashion. I just want to make sure that, so the council is asking that he merge lot 3 and lot 4 into one lot. Is that correct? Or, and then waive the city impact fees
Right,
for the
on the-
4 lots.
On the,
That's I haven't heard. any-
well, that's okay,
Okay,
but I
okay.
mean, you can
I
ask
just-
that you can ask that question. if-
Just, I guess I'd like to make sure that the public hearing is open only for
It's only going to
those
be,
issues.
it's only
So
going
we
to be
don't,
open to answering the question, whether or not he's willing to go to 4 where the council can approve it,
okay.
or move on to look at this as a 5-unit thing.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Becky, just to confirm, the city does collect impact fees for other agencies, and the city would not be waiving those.
Correct. We can't-
Like the
we can't do that.
ITD and the ACHD impact.
The-
Fire, same thing.
the fire.
Yep.
Here's the concern with the 17th. Councilwoman Salmonson will not be here. Councilman Nielsen will be here. He wasn't here as part of this hearing. So I need to have Councilwoman Salmonson here and these two to address this, not Councilman Nielsen on that, just so everybody's aware. That's why we're going with January or February 7th already. We just started January. Give me a
Am I
break.
hearing that we don't need Councilman Nielsen? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, on this one.
Okay, I just want to clarify. I'm just kidding. He's a
So-
good guy.
My suggestion is to get the answer. If the council is willing to do that, if not, then you need to let me know and we'll close it. And we'll try to make a decision now.
1 second, sir. I'm just making sure. So I have a
I have to call in. I'll let you call in. on
I have a full-time job that's the Forest Service, and after a year and a half of government protests, my $8 billion, which sounds big, but not to the federal government, helicopter solicitation is going to go in for source selection. I've got to be in Missoula to do that. I'm the wrangler of those cats. So it's,
Deal.
and yes, I am
Important.
gone the 22nd through the 5th, and I will be back and then gone the 12th through the 18th of February. So
So he'll be here for
I will
that.
be here for that.
Just don't fly
Yeah.
Southwest and we'll be
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And just one other, because you can't talk to me about this. The kids that sneak off and had the smoke behind the trees, that was me. And now
So-
I believe they vape.
So I would entertain a motion then to table it until February 7th.
Do I need to state the conditions or we've
No,
already?
just tabling it.
All right.
Just for you might include the specific issue that you're taping it for as part of.
All right. Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I
Hershey.
move that we table, I just forgot the Colt. The decision for the, let me get the name right. Colt Heights subdivision, specifically for the merging of lot 3 and 4
With the waiver of the.
with the waiver of the road,
No, of the,
excuse me, with the waiver.
Parks
of the
impact.
Parks and impact fees that the city controls.
Right.
And also allowing, I believe Councilman Wheelock the 28-foot road.
Correct. Oh, like, where did Becky go? There she is. Okay. So we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, at 9:25, we're tabling this until February 7th, 2028. It's probably going to be the first public hearing, correct, Sean? Finish this up so everybody's aware of that, okay? So thank you. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess for the facility break real quick. So it's 9:26. Okay. We're live? Okay. Okay. It's 9:32. We're going to resume our council meeting for tonight. We're moving on to item 7A. This is the resolution for that emergency, adopting this emergency management plan. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the plan.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Hershey.
I think it'd behoove us to adopt this plan.
Is that a motion?
Oh, yeah, behoove. So I make a motion that we adopt this plan, emergency operations plan, take the draft off.
Okay. By resolution, right?
I'm sorry, did I? Oh,
Yeah.
good Lord. I make a motion, we approve resolution TBD 2023, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Star adopting the December 2022 Basic Emergency Operations Plan.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey,
Aye.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson.
I,
Okay, that motion carries. That resolution's passed, and then you'll get whatever to Ada County Emergency Management, right, Jacob? Okay. We're gonna move on to item 7B. I need you to pull up both of those for me if you don't mind. This is, as you know, we put in our budget to do the shade structure over at the skate park. This is, this price is for $64,000. Can you pull up the other one too, which shows the drawings on there? Just need to clarify some stuff on here. This is a custom design to fit this area over there. So I went out to Bill's Machine Shop, went out to Rule, and also to our playground equipment folks to do this. The playground equipment folks cannot do a custom shade. They can do a standard one for about $40,000. And I never got an answer back from Rule on that because a lot of these guys are too busy. So we have this shade structure, which actually the roof is solid. This is just showing the structure. The roof is solid. It's going to have electrical ran into it and whatnot over there at the park. We put $100,000 into the bid for it. This with the concrete is going to come roughly about $82,000.
So I have a question.
I have an answer, hopefully.
Black tin, can we make it a little lighter than black tin?
We can make it whatever color tin we want to make it, but we don't need to approve that with this tonight. We can do
I'm
whatever.
just throwing it out there since they specified black tin. If we lighten that shade, the tin, it's gonna lighten the heat draw.
Well, and just the only reason they went with that is because that's what we put on the roof house. So if we want to lighten it, we can do all that. That's not a big deal. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So any questions relating to this?
What's the minimum height? Just making sure no one can jump up there because
They can't. No, it's being designed. I think that, I mean, anybody can jump up there.
Well-
Let's not be unreal about it.
I know, I'm
But
just saying, make it
they're not gonna be-
undesirable to jump up there.
Their buddy will help them.
the roof is going to be designed with the way that they can't go skate off the roof.
Okay, that's what I mean.
If that's what we're worried about.
Yeah, that's
right?
it.
Unless Tom wants to try it and show us how to do it.
Well,
Right.
we would
He's
allow,
watching.
we would allow that.
And so we're
Tom can
using
do
this
anything now.
design. This is kind of a design that Jennifer and I were working on with the docks at the River House. So it's kind of similar to kind of give it that offset look on here.
That's great.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve it.
Do I get the high side or the low side on my side of that skate park?
I'm going to give you the butt side, the gable.
Well, Mr.
Oh,
Mayor,
nice.
make an official motion to approve
Okay.
this bid as is and whatever consideration you have for the 10 to make it.
For the color. Yeah. All right.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman.
So motion was made. I'll go ahead. I just want to make a quick little statement. I'm in full support of this. I think when the skate park was designed, there was original, like Mr. Obach, he had plans for a shade structure there. And
Correct.
so, you know, it's been a few years that we've been waiting on this. I think it's much needed and it's going to be fantastic. So with that, I will second Councilman Hershey's motion.
Okay, we got a second from Councilwoman Salmonson. Any further discussion?
Put it better than I did.
So I'm just gonna, just so everybody's aware, on the concrete stuff, it's gonna be a concrete pad. There's gonna be a ramp down the side and there's stairs off the concrete to the grass area at the park. So it's gonna look fantastic. It's gonna provide some ADA opportunities all the way around the board too.
Right. And was there some work going to be done like with that hill? They're going to have
Hill's
to bump it out or it's already taken care of?
Everything's already taken out and
Good.
brought in and got rid of the rock.
And it's a big
wall.
size and it's
Yeah.
gonna be fantastic. Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
I,
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. On the item 7C, if Mr. Ryan, if you would come up to the podium too, because you may have some questions on this as well. So this item 7C is the Highway 44 widening construction contract award. We did a public bid opening on December 20. Will that get taken away? On December 21st, 2022 at 3 p.m. here at Star City Hall. And we had 3 bidders, which is good. I'm glad we had 3 bidders. It gives us some options there. Capital Paving was the lowest bidder for the entire project at $3,821,000. The engineer's estimate overall was about $3,894,000. So we're right underneath the engineer's estimate for this whole thing. We are using proportionate share to pay for this. The proportionate share that we have committed is 4.9 million. We have collected 1.7 million with, and remember, we only get proportionate share when final plats are approved.
Right.
So the object here is to use the $1.7 million that we have to pay for this, pull out of our savings $2,085,000 to fund this project so we can get this thing completed by June. We would pay back that savings with the future proportionate shares that come in. There is a chance that ITD will front $500,000 on this. Not for certain yet because they have to find the money. If they do front the $500,000, we're going to pay that back also with proportionate share monies, just so you guys are aware. Okay? Because when you're looking at me funny, proportionate shares. Correct. Yeah, instead of right. And instead of having to take 2 million out, we don't have to take 1.5 million out of savings. And I put a breakdown on here that the current savings is about $11.5 million. When we utilize part of that, we'll still have 9.3 million in savings. If you guys are aware, if we have Armageddon in our budgets because of slowdowns or whatever, we have enough there to go 3 years for city's operations with that, bringing everything down to the bare knuckles. Okay. Any questions on that? And there's a second and third page on there, which I broke down what project 1 is. And also let's go to project 1. Project 1 shows us this was a portion that Natera was supposed to do that was incorporated in here because they gave us a proportionate share in lieu of doing this. So there's a portion from Canada Road to Bent Lane that there's a center turn lane that's supposed to be installed there. ITD has come back recently and told us that we're not going to have to go that entire route with that. So we can back that out with a change order in the future after we award the contract and only go 100 feet for that center turn lane from Canada Road to the west. Okay? Just so you're aware.
I just have one.
yeah, would you repeat that? Sorry.
So if you look up here on the, I don't have a mouse to even point at it, but you can see where it says Project 1 base.
Yep.
So that section between Canada Road and Bent Lane is required with what ITD at the time made do was provide a center turn lane from Canada Road all the way to Bent Lane. So instead of them doing any of their improvements there, they gave us proportionate share of $600,000. Is that correct? To take care of
684.
However, ITD has come back since the time that we bid and said that we only have to go 100 feet from Canada Road to the west. We don't have to do the entirety of that at this time, which we'll be able to do a change order after it's awarded to back that out. And we do have, so like when you go back to the top of this page, Sean, we do have this broken out. Obviously, the low bidder has that section of road costing $543,000. There's a potential of $300,000 savings probably in there, $250,000 to $300,000 savings. We do not have to give it back to Natera. No,
Thank you.
not a requirement. Does that
Yeah,
clarify that?
I just want to make sure 'cause
So-
that's what I thought. And so project 1, I guess one question I have, so we are obligated, required to take the lowest bid, correct?
Lowest responsive bid.
Responsible bid.
Lowest responsible bid. And so when you add the term responsible in there, that is saying, so you've like vetted all of these bidders and made sure.
All three of these respondents have done work for ITD. All of them are known in this valley. If we were to go and just look at their qualifications, all of them are qualified to do this work. So the
It's just,
lowest responsible bidder, Capital Paving, I would consider responsible.
Mhm.
oh, respond.
Responsive.
bidders.
Okay.
And they're responsive. They signed their documents. They provided the bond. You know, they acknowledged the addenda, you know, all that stuff. They provided a price on each section of the project.
Do you think that
That's
there's
responsible.
any, because they came in, it's almost 200, what, 225? I'm not great at on the spot math, lower than the second, the Napa paving.
That's
So,
it's 110,000.
That's quite normal.
yeah.
One that
Yeah.
throws me is the high. I would have, if this had been a bigger range, the high would have been tossed by me immediately.
Well, and the high acknowledged the fact that they screwed up when they were here at the bid. They looked at each other.
And also, look at the engineering estimate. They came in under the engineering estimate. Engineering estimates use, lack of a better term, standards and means to give an adequate price with an estimate, usually mildly buffered, because they know that engineering estimates are done at time with only historical data, where companies that bid are usually more project forward thinking, and therefore coming in under it or near it, and as near as they came. I'm quite certain that both actually Capital and Central are well attuned to what this project is and how to do it.
And the beauty of it, it's a bonded project.
Yeah, so it's got a safety net.
As an engineer that used to do these, you always celebrated when your number was between the high and the low bid, or the low and the next bid. You're like, we got it right. So the fact that these numbers, is Councilman Hershey pointed out, are so close to the engineer's estimate, gives me a pretty good feeling.
So, go ahead. Sorry, Councilman Wheelock. They don't tell them the engineer's estimate when you start? No.
Correct.
That's a secret number until the disclosing of their number. Right, but sometimes they'll give you an overall project value.
This is the first time this number has been made public.
Yeah, that's something that we do as well, because we need to know what we need to budget, finance for the project. Also, if it's coming out where the bids are different, which these are not, except for the one that acknowledged their mess up, that shows us that maybe we weren't thinking about something or they weren't thinking about something. And it's a check and balance in all reality.
Yep.
And this one really, I mean,
and
I love it when they're that close.
Just remember, there is a bond involved. So they're obligated to complete the project with this in the time frame.
Yep.
That's a nice, that's a surety. Yes.
Yes.
Payment and performance.
Right.
Right.
So, yep, payment performance bonds.
Yep. When your bottom two bidders are within 1%, which were less than 0.5% difference, that's usually a pretty good sign.
Yeah. So I would look for a motion to approve. Can you go back to the top for me? All over the place, Smalls.
Move
to approve issuing a notice to proceed. Is that, or a
First, we want to issue the notice of award.
notice of award for Capital Paving in the amount of $3,821,492.70. Within that motion, us utilizing our savings of $2,085,594.48 to make up the difference from our proportionate share.
So moved.
But hang on a sec. Chris wanted to.
Sorry.
Ruin it?
No, not necessarily. I just wanted to confirm, are we for sure doing all the alternates? Or is there an opportunity, is there a chance that, I was just gonna say, instead of doing for the exact amount, do a not to exceed. in case
Well, yeah, we
it's-
can do not to exceed. We can, I mean, if you want to do it 3,800,000 and some thousand, I mean, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you could do it not to, I was just, the way it was worded was just to approve it at that amount, which would mean both projects and
Oh,
all the
stay in a minute.
alternates. And And so if we ended up pulling out an alternate or if with the, I mean, the change order was separate, I don't know. where-
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But if
So
we
we'll
just did
say
a
not to exceed the
for that number.
$3,821,000.
I think.
Four
Chris
92
brings up a
70.
Good point. Do we need to have a discussion about whether we're accepting all the alternates or not?
I believe we accept all the alternates, guys. I mean, if we're going to do a widening project and utilize this, we need to do it right
Don't short it.
and don't short it. We're just creating more of an issue in the future. We just need to get this done. We can get it done by June. You know, and I will tell you, we let the Albertsons folks know because they got more buildings coming up. They're pretty excited the fact that this was being done while they're doing all this construction right now.
Yeah, Mayor Chadwick, I would totally agree with doing it sooner now, including it now, rather than holding it out. You know, we all feel the pain of the traffic and this was on ITD's improvement, right? I mean, but it was an unfunded project.
Right.
This is where we can spend the money we've been collecting specifically for, you know, the ITD improvement. So in keeping it in our city. So I think it's a great use of our funds and we have plenty in savings. If we had some sort of, you know, horrible thing happen, we would still be fine. So
And just remember, we're also going to collect that savings back through the additional 3.2 million we have committed towards that proportionate share to pay back our savings. We won't be out the money.
And
It's just going to take a period of time to collect.
probably $500,000 to $700,000 as soon as paving opens again this spring. We've got that many subdivisions that are ready to pave that we will very possibly see some of those proportionate shares coming in.
Mr. Mayor, is this our first use of that fund?
This is our very first use of this fund ever. We put it in place in April of 2020. I think this is going to get a lot of attention, in my opinion. ITD is very excited about it. I think it's a win. It's a win for trying to have development help pay for the growth and to help get some of the bottlenecks and the issues we have in our city addressed.
To me, it proves that we're committed to doing what we said we'd do.
Right.
To ease this burden, and it wakes up ITD and ACHT to say, we're here to build and make a nice city. We need infrastructure if we're going to do that.
Right.
and so, and really, I mean, this is truly the growth paying for itself, right?
Growth paying for itself.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
right.
And remember, so when I'm just going to bring this up too, we're doing proportionate share on only the state highway improvements within the city limits, our area of impact of STAR, right? That's it. ITD has committed the funds to the widening of 2026 here within STAR. They've committed the funds to the Highway 16 improvements. In reality, we can utilize these funds, keep going west to where our new area of impact goes, all the way to Kingsbury, and get this to 5 lanes over a period of time.
Yep.
That's a win because ITD's already got the funds set aside, not set, well, it's in 2 years to fund this section between Highway 16 and Star Road. So we'll have a 5-lane segment in all directions here pretty quick. Right? In the next 3 years, we'll have 5-lane segments everywhere.
If we could get ACHT to do Star Road.
That's a different animal,
Another discussion.
different discussion.
Let's get the check.
So we need to revise, so make a motion, somebody, so I don't have to repeat it. Oh, you can't see that.
Scoot the-
Well, I'll try.
Not
I'll
to
try.
Not to exceed.
I'll try. All right. So Mayor Chadwick,
Is that right? Not to exceed, right?
Yes.
I move that we approve the notice of award to Capital Paving not to exceed $821,492.70. Utilizing savings of 2.085, $2,085,594.
Okay. Is that all we need? Does that work? Okay, that works.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's a
I think I got
convoluted.
it.
That's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion, and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hershey.
Aye.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you.
We'll send that out this week.
We'll set that out this week. We are at 9:52 and we're going to adjourn our meeting because our agenda is complete.